Good morning, early game crew. It's Reaction Monday, and South Carolina loses in a nightmarish fashion, 26-7 against Oklahoma. The Gamecocks are 3-4, and they're staring down the barrel of a disaster of a 2025 season. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. We'll be reacting to this game all day and, of course, some other stuff that has happened from the world of college football because other than that, a very fun weekend of football. But we got to talk about that. Right, I hate to sound like Meatloaf. It's like I would love to talk about anything about college football, but I don't want to touch that. But we have to. That's what we get paid to do. And South Carolina loses 26-7 in a game that ultimately was just never competitive after the first couple drives, in a game that seemed to be the most winnable of a four-game stretch against the nation, four of the nation's top 15 teams, and in a game in which Oklahoma, like LSU, gave you plenty of chances to stay in this game, plenty of invitations. It wasn't just a phone call of an invitation. You got a text message. You got the Facebook invite. You even got something in the mail that was, on some really nice stationery.
Fancy.
Some fancy stationery invitation to keep getting back in this game because Oklahoma kept shooting themselves in the foot with penalties, and they quit taking advantage of your play for about 2.5 quarters. They gave you chances to get back in the game for the second straight game. You decided you did not want to RSVP to the winning party, and now you're 3-4.
Yeah, and I think the thing that's most frustrating about all of this is when I watch Oklahoma, when I watch LSU, I'm looking like they're not that good.
No,
they're not that good. Oklahoma's not, LSU's not. Vandy's doing their thing.
Vandy's
awesome.
good. Yeah.
Vandy's good.
Capital G good.
Missouri's better. But Oklahoma and LSU are not that good. And that's not to say that we could even beat them because we're not close to them either.
No.
We're bad.
No.
We are bad. And I think we crossed the threshold in my mind. One of your concepts that I love and I like to explore right now is the final score was 26-7 on the scoreboard. But what was the score spiritually for you?
45-7.
45-7.
Spiritually, it felt like 4 quarters of getting punched in the stomach.
When it was 14-7, I kept thinking to myself, it's only 14-7, and yet we have so far to go.
14-7 felt like 24-7.
Like when you put something in the GPS and it's like, oh, it's 5 miles away, but it's going to take you 45 minutes to get there.
Traffic's bad.
Something like that's how it felt. Like it's only 14-7 if we kick the field goal, which we will have a conversation about. But it could have been 14-10 going into halftime. In no world does that feel like an insurmountable lead, except this one that we currently live in, where the offense is abysmal. To say that, you know what? I don't have to say that. The numbers reflect that.
It's true.
And so at 14-7, it feels like, man, this thing is almost out of hand. And that is no way to go through a season.
It felt them failing to get any type of points on the board on that last drive of the first half.
Oh, and
that's my, okay, you get you a field goal here, then
that's another
a field goal is a win. You don't have any timeouts. You know the rules of college football, where if you're tackled before you get to the first down marker, the clock will keep running. You do not have time in that scenario to run up and spike the ball. Two things need to be made very well aware to your signal caller. The throw either must get past the first down marker, or if you throw it beneath the chains, you must get out of bounds. And the fact that it was thrown beneath the first down marker in the middle of the field is astonishing.
It's a 3-pronged problem. And I think that particular play, we could look at that and illustrate so many issues because it's a failure at 3 different levels. It's a failure from the coach's level because we have this new thing in college football for the last 2 years where you can talk to the quarterback. You can give them notes. Hey, do exactly what Elijah just said. Don't throw it short of the sticks. Don't throw it in the middle of the field. Ready? Okay. 2, quarterback. You've played a lot of football at this point. You have to know the situation. You have to know what's going on. You have to be aware of this, even if the coach doesn't tell you. 3, hey, wide receiver.
Get your ass past the sticks.
Get past the sticks. These are 3 separate failures, dereliction of duty, as somebody, I think Ray might have said that last week. And it's illustrates, and then the play just fizzles. And I wasn't in the stadium, but it just felt like the stadium just went,
Yeah. And that perfectly encapsulates it. And Shane's trying to argue the spot. I'm like, buddy, you gave the referees a chance to give you a bad spot. And it wasn't a bad spot. You were short. It wasn't even a bad spot. But you gave them a position to. The play call should never have an underneath route that was in the middle of the field. That should not happen. You should not throw the ball short of the sticks. Like everything from play calling to execution to just situational awareness. F. And it cost you points in a game in which points were going to be a premium. Points in red zone trips were going to be at an absolute premium. And you were getting the ball back to start the second half. A touchdown drive, as unlikely as those started to seem at one point in the game, would have given you a lead. 14-10 in that game would feel a whole lot different than 14-7. But you just let it slip. You just continue to let it slip. And that is a big source of the frustration with fans, and rightfully so.
Rightfully so.
There is a lot of righteous anger with this football team because it is coaching, it is play calling, it is development, it is player execution. It's everything. If you want to break down every bit of where things go wrong on a football team, this team has experienced a little bit of everything. They have gone to the bad football buffet and have gluttonized. There is not a thing there they have not tried so far this season.
I'll take some of that. Bad play calling? I'll take some of that.
I'll take some of that too. Oh, yeah. Hey, can I get a little extra bad blocking? Yeah, can I get a little extra? Yeah, yep. Oh, yeah, that's a lot, but I'll take it. That's exactly what's gone on with this football team. That's why you're 3-4. Like,
and
your record reflects
are we now
that.
to the point where before we were saying, I don't think they're very good? Have we crossed that threshold now to say they're bad?
Yeah, I think we have. I think that's safe to say. I think that's fair. That's for us to say. They can believe whatever they need to believe in the facility.
Believe what you need to believe.
But based on what we've seen, I think that's a very fair assessment.
Even if you boil it down to this, I kind of look at teams and be like, good football teams find ways to win when you're not supposed to. Bad football teams discover ways to lose games when you have a chance. And this is 2 straight games where South Carolina has been in a one-score game, probably later in the game than it should have been, with opportunities to steal games against either a top 14 or top 10 team, and just failed to do so. If a team's given you their extension and their invitation to the game, you accept it. Even though, like, really good teams don't even wait for an invitation. They're not vampires. They will invite themselves. You got invitations and said, I'm sleepy. I want to stay in tonight. And that's exactly what happened. And that's how you become 3-4, and that's how you have all this talent on your team, and you don't recognize it. And that's where this team's that's the reality they live in right now. That's the neighborhood.
Well, and the one thing that Beamer has said in the past couple of years, and had said today, or this past week, was our team improves. Usually, our team is known for improving as the season goes on. And I think I said the other day, I respect that, but why can't we start out good and then just be even better? How do we get to be one of those teams where out of the gate it's not ramping up?
Yeah, I think I think both of those things are true. I think Shane's teams have traditionally gotten better as he's been here, but for this year's team, better from where? Right? Where are we to your point, where are we starting from? Because you can get better from a F to a D, and yes, you got better, but you're still not good.
Still not acceptable.
Still not acceptable. And it feels like that whereas in the past maybe it was like, oh, the team's playing average right now, but they haven't done a couple things, and all of a sudden, boom, they shoot up to a B. Doesn't feel that way this year.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what the future holds.
And to that point, too, if you are a program that is living and dying by improvement throughout the year and getting better as the year goes on, A, dangerous game, because the games at the beginning of the season count just as much as they do at the end of the season. And B, if you're going to do that, you better do it. And if you watch that game on Saturday, what area of this football team has gotten better since the opener against Virginia Tech?
Yeah.
Crickets, because I don't think there is an element that has gotten better. Your passing game has not gotten better. Your running game hasn't gotten it much better. It got better for a couple games, but then you go out there and you rush for less than 4 yards a carry, sack adjusted on Saturday. Yes, against the best defense in college football, which is probably why you shouldn't have run the ball. in a traditional sense as many times as you did, and that's a whole other discussion we'll get to as well. Offensive line hasn't gotten any better. Defense looked lights out against Virginia Tech. They've still been good enough to keep you in games, but it hasn't made a jump. You're not doing what I guess needs to be done still to win games. The team just hasn't gotten any better. So when you already live on the edge in the month of September and you fail and you don't get any better, that's how you look at 3 and 4, and that's how you look at a stretch with 3 straight games against teams that are either in the top 10 or were in the top 10 within the last 7 days. And then if you lose those games, you are statistically eliminated from any type of football after Thanksgiving weekend. Go to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We'll start with Ray on Reaction Monday. Ray, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, good morning, Elijah. Good morning, Preston. Good morning, Jen. I spent 12 hours of my time Saturday. I was at Williams-Brice Stadium. Oh, Lord. Well, I called in back in the sermon and said a couple things, and I was trying to be nice. I called in, and Preston knows this also well. A bad position coach can wreck your program. A bad offensive coordinator can cause head coaches their jobs. And it's starting to play out that way. I'm not saying Shane's gone at the end of the year. I'm not saying anything like that. He'll be back next year. But if I'm Donati, there's no way I let him hire my next OC. No way. What I witnessed, it's some of the worst football I've ever seen. It's all bad. And, Elijah, you laid it out. You laid it out, and you impressed it. There's nothing good. And the fact that a reporter asked Shane a question that has to be asked. If I'm Shane Beamer, I'm expecting that question to be asked. He came totally unglued, crossed his arms, started yelling for the next question because he knows one of his friends in the media that comes to his Tuesday pressers is going to serve him up a softball. He knows that's coming. But basic question was asked was basically about the play calling, about the offense, about the play calling. And he just came totally unglued. And I'm not going to do any name calling. I don't think we have to. But I'll tell you, this soap opera, and I'm not putting it on the players, guys. This is all the coaches. This is the guys in the offices. The players, of course, they bust their behinds. That's all they've known to do since Pop Warner. But these coaches are just not getting the job done. And Donati, don't let this go on. Don't let this go on. Something has to be done. Thanks a lot, guys.
Yeah, appreciate the call, Ray, as always, my man.
Great model call. We knew that would be great from Ray. But, again, you can say what you mean, but you don't have to mean when you say it. So, great job.
Yes.
Good job. Great job, as always, from Ray.
Yes.
Because we are not discouraging anybody from expressing their opinion.
No.
We're not discouraging that. But let's keep it within the rule. Great job, Ray.
The only I guess edit I would make is I'm not letting players off the hook either.
I feel you.
Because you got to execute. Even if it's not a great play call, you still got to execute. And I agree. I think it's just a failure on all accounts. It is play calling, it is coaching, it is development, and it's execution. And right now, this team's just not in a position to do anything to lead us to believe that they're going to pick off one of Alabama at home or Ole Miss and Texas A&M on the road. Obviously, our eyes told us that this game was not very good. But what are the criteria that this team has laid out for themselves? We've been discussing that all year, and we kind of apply that after every single game. We're going to do that next. And spoiler alert, it's exactly what you might think it is. That's coming up next here on the early game.
Things moving fairly well this morning. We don't really have any accidents to report at this time, not showing any significant slowdowns. And weather-wise, we're going to see the sun really most of this week. Lots of sunshine pretty much each and every day. 73 will be our high today, overnight low of 45. And tomorrow, 79, overnight low of 52. We're going to have a couple mornings that will continue to be in the mid to upper 40s. So keep that in mind as you're starting off. Going to need to bundle up just a little bit. Currently 55 on 107.5 The Game.
Before we get to measuring South Carolina's performance against their own standards against Oklahoma in the 26-7 loss, it is Reaction Monday. So we're getting your reaction. 803-404-6100. On the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, Joe is on the line with us. Joe, good morning. Good to hear from you, sir.
Hey, guys, good morning, man. Normally, I know what I'm going to say. Listen, man, I've been a Gamecock since I've been in the 5th grade, man. I'm 51 years old. I've seen the good, I've seen the bad, I've seen the ugly. Every year I have hope for what we're going to do. It was sad to watch what was out on the field Saturday. It really was. It made me sick to my stomach. It made me uneasy. I'm upset. I'm mad. But I'm still a Gamecock. Bakari Swain has been doing this thing all year long. I'm so happy for him for what he's accomplishing this year. Everything else just needs to be worked on, man. Everything else outside of special teams. But I want to address one thing. If we had Steve Spurrier as our play caller right now, Michael Vick as the quarterback, and Barry Sanders as running back, they wouldn't be able to accomplish anything with the way our offensive line is blocking, guys. Our offensive line is terrible. It really is. People complain about the play calling, but it doesn't matter who's calling the plays because the offensive line cannot block. And then you hear these fans that are just going in on all of these coaches. Well, I mean, Sean Elliott just got the job 2 weeks ago. So that problem is not going to be fixed overnight. I believe going in black, and all I'm going to do is continue to hope that the Gamecocks get better. We need 3 more wins to get a bowl game. I hope some way that we figure it out to get those 3 wins, man. I'm not going to bash my team. I'm not going to bash my coach. I just hope that we get better. That's about all I got to say, man. Great show, man. I'm in the dumps. We drank the Kool-Aid earlier in the year because we were ranked number 11. We had a Heisman Trophy candidate. They were talking about the receivers, how everybody was improving, how we're going to be wowed by everything that gets on the field this year, and there's none of that. And so I just hope that, whatever Shane is doing, that it works for him, because right now, this is not going to get it. So, great show as usual, guys. Go Gamecocks, man. You guys have a great day. Thanks for letting me vent.
You too, Joe. That's over here.
Another solid call. Again, we understand the premise. The premise of this is that, yes, you can be a Gamecock and still have very righteous, valid anger and complaints. That does not nullify your Gamecock fandom. It is actually, you're right, because you support the team and because you've been here and all that. So it is actually, I'd say it's part of the fandom. So I don't like the idea of, get on or get out or something like that.
Right,
Nah,
right.
man.
Yeah.
You can be a Gamecock fan and still have some very valid concerns and issues with the state of the program right now.
And one reason that tells you that, one thing that you can look at and say, yeah, of course you're failing. Obviously, the wins and losses are one thing, but sometimes 3 and 4 can look different than anybody else, right? Sometimes you can do everything you want to do in a football game. Sometimes the other team is just better, right? And part of what happened, Oklahoma, I don't think is a national title contender by any means. I think they're a good football team with an elite defense, right? And if their quarterback keeps the ball out of harm's way, which to his credit he did on Saturday, then that is a team that can really do some things during the season. But that's not what's happening. You're not just getting beat, you're beating yourself. And how I know this is because this team in the practice facility had a banner as to what they're going to judge themselves by. We've been applying that to every game, and they've lost a majority of the time. When they lose games because of that laid out criteria. So let's look at it from this game. We'll start with running the ball and stopping the run, seemingly their biggest emphasis. And if you account for sacks, which we will do because the NCAA still does this stupid thing where sack yardage counts for rushing attempts, take away the sacks, Oklahoma wins the yards per rush battle 4.7 to 3.8. So you lose that one. Dominate the fourth quarter. You lost 2-0 in the fourth quarter. No, Shohei Ohtani did not hit a 2-run home run. There was a safety. Turnover battle. Oklahoma won that turnover battle 2-0. They did not commit a turnover. You committed 2. Explosive play battle. Oklahoma won the explosive play battle 8-6. Play smart football. Yes, you did avoid penalties for the most part. I don't think they had their first penalty until late in the third quarter. And Oklahoma committed 9 penalties in that first half alone. I think it was probably 8, but 1 was declined, so it doesn't count. But still, Oklahoma at one point in the game was on pace to commit up to 20 penalties in this game. You played smarter football in the first half, but penalties aren't the only things that we judge smart football on. Again, I will allude to that last drive of the first half where you let the clock run out because you threw the ball short of the sticks and Brady Hunt got tackled before getting a first down and you didn't have a chance to even line up to attempt a field goal. Also, you get into the red zone. You get on like the 1-yard line, and now you're having 4th and goal from the 6. And Lenore Sellers did not have a carry on the goal line. So there's another thing I would constitute as not smart football. Don't think you won that one either. That one's a much more subjective type of criteria, but if we're applying things that we would consider smart football and looking at this game through that scope, I don't think you won that one either.
Yeah, I don't think so either. And again, I mean, smart football applies to traditionally we think smart football applies to maybe doing dumb things on the field like after play penalties, etc. But also it can apply to coaching decisions. And when you're looking at some of the coaching decisions, they were curious at best. Head scratching again. You know, like it wasn't the fake punt is a great example of non-smart football from the coach to the execution to the play. There was no bit of smart to remedy that disaster that you could see was going to happen. In 4K, on TV, in the stands, everybody's like, no! And went through it.
I wouldn't even be mad if they went for it. That's the thing, too. At that point, I almost don't.
And that's a whole nother part of the discussion. Like, man, if we're just gonna go for it, let's go for it. Because the tricking people thing's not really working.
Yeah,
people have recognized that. Hey, maybe their special teams are better than their offense. Like,
this is how they're gonna rely on scoring points. Yeah. The data of where you rank in offensive categories is publicly available information.
So smart football is subjective, but it also applies across the board to everybody.
And we've been doing this after every game. And I'm noticing a trend that you are losing a lot of these every single game, which tells me, obviously, that the process isn't even working. So I can accept losing if you play well and you're sticking to a process and you're at least doing the things in the process that would tell you that in another game with different conditions, you can win them. Because there are signs of sustainability. But the way they've been losing these games and the way that we're taking what they value and the way they're not executing those tells me that it's not, that there is probably something broken within the process, which is why we look at these next 3 games coming up. And I don't know who feels good.
Talk about a stress test. Talk about Trust the process. Okay.
Sam Hinkie died for the sins of the Philadelphia 76ers. That process worked marginally, but it worked. But something might be messed up in the process from what it appears. Coming up next, Jen Jensen was in the box with me. My arm was not bruised because there was not much to bruise my arm about. But Jen has observations, and Jenny from the box is coming up next.
Preston here for our friends at Absolute Glass, the premier glass company of the Midlands, offering auto, home, and business glass repair. So if your glass is damaged, shattered, cracked, or broken, they can handle the job. If it's a cracked windshield, that's no problem. They'll come out to your location and they'll replace it for you, usually for free, and they work directly with the insurance to take away the headache. That's right. They'll come out to wherever you are. School, home, work, it does not matter. Absolute Glass will come out to you and take care of the job for you. Now, if you're at home and you're looking to increase the value of your home, you can do that with new windows and mirrors, and Absolute Glass will take care of that for you too. Windows, mirrors, shower enclosures. We say it all the time. If you can see through it, Ray and Marianne at Absolute Glass can do it. So check them out online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com. That's online at AbsoluteGlassInc.com.
Traffic moving pretty well this morning, so we aren't Mondaying at this point. Good news there. And we'll keep an eye on that throughout the morning. 73, lots of sunshine today. Sunshine really in the forecast all week, so we definitely could reuse that. Overnight low tonight, 45, 79 tomorrow, overnight low of 52. Going to have cooler mornings this week. Daytime highs are going to be in about the mid-70s, but we're going to start off the mornings more like 45, 48, somewhere in there. So make sure you have a jacket or something to bundle up just a smidge. Right now, 55.
South Carolina falls to Oklahoma 26-7. It's Reaction Monday. And that means our own Jen Jensen has some reaction from her view in the press box. It's time for Jenny from the box.
Wow, so many observations. I didn't even have my mic on to say wow, so look at that. So we start off before the game. You know, they do all the fun, hype stuff and get all lined up for the players to come in. But beforehand, the band spells out Carolina, and then they go back and forth, you know, kind of look like they're in motion. And Elijah and I kind of spoke about that early on. It's like, that's kind of probably what the offense looks like, just kind of going back and forth, no real destination. So it might have been a little precursor as to what was happening. Then they have the celebrity starter, and no offense, the Columbia mayor, super good guy. But, like, we kind of want, you know.
You're expecting a former Gamecock.
A former Gamecock. I want a player, yes.
Yeah.
But fabulous as him, he was fired up.
He's fired up.
He did great. I just would love to see like a former player or something like that. So, like stands were a little bit sparse. We noticed that. It seemed like it took a while for them to fill in. But they did, like right before the start. So that was cool because I thought, maybe the fair. But yeah, by the third, you know, about 7.5 minutes left in the third quarter, yeah, they were gone. Yeah. And they were kind of streaming out as we went along. A couple of their observations, I would say. It was kind of fun to watch Sellers a couple times, especially like right before the end of the first quarter. He was just running, and he was just like swatting players. I mean, it was just like so much fun to watch him just literally like, you know, get out of my way. So, you know, solid in that respect. I would say we were excited about the no penalties thing. Didn't have any in the first half, and it really took till about the third quarter. And then we had like 3, you know, right in a row, and that was kind of annoying. A couple of the other observations, I would say, when the game is going as poorly as it is, maybe don't run the hype videos about how we won't be overworked. Just saying.
It didn't hit the same.
No.
Going into the fourth quarter.
You know, we'll not be overworked.
Sometimes the hype video will have the exact opposite effect.
Yeah. Yeah, just doesn't feel good. And I would say 2 others, about 7 minutes left in the fourth quarter. We were hearing the fire Shula.
We kept a count.
Yeah, it was not good. Not good. And hey, and shout out to the fireworks guys. They're up on, you know, way up high on the scoreboard. They were pretty quiet and didn't have a lot to do during the game because usually they'll shoot off those fireworks after every score. So after about the second quarter, they weren't really doing anything except during a hype video or something like that. Then they were shooting them off. So shout out to them for sitting up so high for so long and not really having anything else to do. So I think those are my basic observations this morning.
Poor Cocky, too.
Bless him, Cocky.
That cockaboose malfunctioned before. It didn't fully malfunction.
Yes.
Because you know how it usually lifts him up at the very top and he's standing and all that. something happened to where it got like stuck halfway through there, and you could barely see him outside of the cockaboose. And we kind of look at each other and we're like,
Hey, listen.
that's an omen, isn't it?
Listen. We're evaluating everything within the program.
This is part of the program.
I think this needs to be evaluated. I fear maybe the cockaboose's time has come and went.
Oh.
I just want to say that. We're evaluating. If everything's being
Look at
evaluated,
Everything's on the
if
table.
everything's on the table, we need to look into this because I'm not sure it's hitting the way we think it is.
And I wasn't sure, does it hydraulically lift him up? Is that what it is? Because I thought, was he on a ladder? I thought it kind of would lift him. But yeah, it looked like he was stuck. And then it looked like they were shooting out, the quote smoke or whatever. And I thought, is he going to choke? Bless his heart. I was a little worried about him.
At that point, because you could barely see him out of it, and it's getting a little smoky there too. And I was like, "Oh no, who's driving the cockaboose? Colonel Sanders?"
I was just, hey, we're cooking the chicken, and then it ended up we were cooked. So
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Look,
so a little precursor there.
Again, omens. They're everywhere.
Yeah, kind of.
803-404-6100. Hank is on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We'll get to Hank here before the break. Hank, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, good morning. My observations on this game is, it's hard. Obviously, it's hard to look at, and then as I go through the weekend, I always listen to a lot of the post game stuff. So I knew we were down a couple of linemen, and I didn't realize that three more ended up. I knew at the end the line looked really bad, and I didn't know that we lost a couple more linemen during the game. But my issue is we don't seem to make the big call. You always hear players, the president will say, at a certain point, players have to make plays. I think the issue that's going on with Shula this year, or the offensive coordinator, or whatever, is they don't make the big call. We've driven the ball just like this week, just like on LSU. You get down there, and it's first and goal from the one, and Lenoir never gets a run, or you don't give him a run pass option. And, what Venables' defense, the thing that was always so ingenious about what Spurrier did when he played against Venables is he used all that pressure against him. So if he was going to bring all that pressure, he did a lot of counters, a lot of, he rolled kind of out the pocket. He gave him some stuff so that if you broke one, the pressure paid for him because you got away from that line. And that's what Texas did. So I just could not understand the 7 to 8 off-tackle runs right up the gut to their best unit. So, that's the thing that really, that really bothers me. And offensively, they never make a change. One thing I'll give the defense is after the first drive, and the second one where they really had to work on kind of help them, but the first drive, after the first drive, when Dylan Stewart got hurt and went out, you would think, this is going to blow open, but the defense settled in without their best player on the field for the whole game. Mm-hmm. So I can imagine what would happen if Norris was on the field for the whole game. So, we just don't seem to make any crucial calls when you have the opportunity to score. You got to score. Not, you may not score all the time, but you got to score. So that's my thought.
Yeah.
We'll see what goes on.
Yeah. Good stuff, Hank. Yeah, appreciate the call, man. And one thing you touched on that I want to touch on is that first red zone trip where it's first and goal from the 9 and you found yourself at 4th and goal from the 6. How do you get there? Again, 3 straight runs between the tackles that were good for a total of 3 yards. And now you have 16. You have Lenoir Sellers. And Lenoir Sellers doesn't get an opportunity to make a play, whether it's running the ball or making a decision passing the ball, until it's 4th and goal from the 6. I don't like taking the ball out of the hands of your best player for 3 straight plays in a goal-to-go situation when red zone trips are going to be so scarce.
That is, again, go back to Ray's word, a dereliction of duty. Get your best player the opportunity to make a play. You don't take it out of his hands because he is the one who can make plays. And again, Mike Shula's whole claim to fame was, I coached Cam Newton. Well, you know what you did with Cam Newton in 2015? You gave him the ball on the goal line and let him make a play. Mm-hmm. That's the whole reason you're here. That's your resume right off the top in big bold letters says, I coached Cam. Well, you got a version. You've been gifted a version of Cam right here, and you've decided not to use him in an appropriate way.
More of your calls and texts breaking down South Carolina's 26-7 loss to Oklahoma on a Reaction Monday. That's next. It's Reaction Monday. Oklahoma comes to Williams-Brice Stadium for the first time in history and leaves with a 26-7 win. And the South Carolina Gamecocks fall to 3-4 on the season with 3 games against teams that are either currently in the top 10 or were in the top 10 in the past 7 days. It is not a fun time in Gamecock land right now, so we're letting you vent. We're taking your reaction, 803-404-6100, Firehouse Subs text line, and the AAA Heating and Air phone lines, which is we're going to go next, and we will hit up Andy. Andy, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Hey guys, I'm sorry I just hopped on, but I assume we're talking about now. This hits home. How the running up the middle works every single time for us. Isn't it so nice? It's golden. It's just like clockwork. It works 99% of the time. I'm so frustrated. I have been trying to be calm this whole season, have a zen. I say it is what it is. But come on, Schuler, it's time to go, in my opinion, because he's had the time, and these guys either, don't understand it or can't do it or what. And Beamer needs to realize that quick, or he's going to be on the hot seat, because there's a lot of people out there already. I never thought I'd see it, but, this is ridiculous. And you know what was even worse? It was at 12:30, 12:45, whenever it started. There was a lot of football to watch, of people doing it right. It's like,
because there was a lot of good football after. There was a lot of good football after that game.
That's a great point.
And you got to see people doing it correctly without problems and protecting a quarterback. That's what hurt the most. I'll hang up and listen, because it's that bad.
Appreciate the call as always, Andy, and I totally get it, because it was a really good slate of college football. We had some bangers for games on Saturday.
And I think I might have found a new team crush.
No. Does it involve a team going 13 personnel?
And they're very close, and I never thought this would be, but man, my eyes are telling me things.
Your eyes and your heart. Oh, well, one of my team crushes from earlier in the year, Georgia Tech. You want to talk about a team that blocks and runs the ball the right way? Georgia Tech, man. They gave up 400 yards of passing and still won by multiple scores on the road
and
just previously.
And just to support everybody, the statistics back up what your eyes say. We can get to analytics and all that, but there is a number of statistics that support that this offense is however you want to describe it. We're on FCC airwaves, so maybe I can't use the words that we need to, but the numbers say. But just to support Andy's opinion right here, tackles for loss allowed 127 out of 136, sacks allowed 135 out of 136.
Yeah, your eyes,
just the numbers.
Your eyes are not deceiving you.
Right.
And that's the problem with this team too. And I see a lot of, this team was overhyped at the beginning of the year. Ultimately, yes, because the pieces around your best players were not good enough, and the development has not been good enough, because a lot of the projection banked on some of the players in that room making that jump from being marginal contributor to big contributor. Right? You haven't had those jumps. But what makes the season so frustrating is if you go into the SEC with arguably the best quarterback in the SEC, the most talented quarterback in the SEC, one who just went on a 6-game tear at the end of the year, the likes that you have not seen from that position in the history of this program, and then the best edge rusher in the conference, and these are the results. There's a lot that happens in between those two positions that have forced you to be in this position and be 3-4 going into this stretch, and are honestly down the path of missing a bowl game, which would be a disaster given the talent that you have on this team.
Catastrophic, for sure.
You can't miss out on those. Firehouse Subs text line, again, same number, 803-446-2100, because we're getting close to having to get the break here, but I wanted to mention this. You guys aren't mentioning the 3rd and goal from the half-yard line, then becomes 4th and goal from the 6. This is from Rick. Can we not run a QB sneak with a 240-pound quarterback? Yeah, that's the second red zone trip. You only had 2. In the second one, yes, you did start off at about the half-yard line and then had to go 4th and goal from the 6, in which you had a broken play that resulted in a touchdown, and also probably shouldn't have counted because Josiah Thompson definitely jumped early. Probably should have been a false start, but you got away with it. That's football. You will get away with it sometimes. But again, to Rick's point, should not have had to be in that position, because when you're that close to the goal line, yes, I love Rasul Faison. Yes, Matthew Fuller has shown some flashes. Lenore Sellers is ultimately still your best runner of the football in terms of being the toughest to take down. I would much rather see him run that ball on a QB sneak from the 1-yard line. But then that first play, you lost 2. and you kept running into brick walls all game because you know what we knew going into this game? You were not going to traditionally run the ball against Oklahoma.
Yeah, that was a fact. We knew that.
We knew that. We talked about that all week, about how good this defense is.
And we don't have the all-22s. We don't have the cut-ups. We don't have we knew that.
I have a YouTube TV subscription and access to the internet, and I was able to come to a pretty clear conclusion that you were not going to be able to run the ball like that against them. There's a reason South Carolina's 0 for 7 in power rushing attempts. 0 for 7. Would have liked to see Lenore Sellers, who is built like a linebacker, mind you, get that ball on the first, or early on first and goal. So much more to react to, so many more calls, so many more texts. We'll continue our breakdown of the loss coming up next in hour number 2 of the early game. It's okay to be disappointed in your football team, but one company that will not disappoint you, they never do, because for 30 years they've been a leader in roofing and waterproofing, giving the perfect advice, service, and the results to the needs of your facility. That would be Midstate Roofing. If that's what you were guessing, then you already know, right? Real ball knowers know that Midstate Roofing is here to be able to protect your home or business by keeping the place dry, keeping it waterproofed, and giving you that protection that you need. And of course, one of my favorite things about Midstate Roofing too is that you can even protect that roof with a maintenance contract. And sometimes when urgent needs arise, sometimes those urgent needs arise outside of traditional working hours, Midstate Roofing is still accessible to you because they always have on-call technicians after hours. By giving me a call at 803-356-1919. And you can always hit them up online at midstateroofing.com. Just remember, if you have a leak, let Midstate Roofing take a peek.
All clear at this point on the highways. Nothing to report, and I'm completely okay with that. 73 for the high today. We're going to have sunshine throughout the week. It's going to be fantastic. But the overnight low tonight, 45, 79 tomorrow, overnight low of 52, and on Wednesday, a high of 76. And the rest of the week, really, the overnights are going to be, lows are going to be in the mid to upper 40s. So make sure you do kind of have a plan to at least bundle up and layer a little bit this week. Currently holding steady at 55.
Hour number 2 of a Reaction Monday of the early game starts right now. I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. And we're reacting to South Carolina's 26-7 loss to Oklahoma at Williams-Brice Stadium. And a lot of you have been bringing it, whether it be on the AAA Heating and Air phone lines or the Firehouse Subs text line. Kentucky Joe has an interesting observation here. He says, the play calling, from my point of view, isn't bad. It's the execution of the plays. The players are making the jump. I think he probably meant aren't. They haven't met expectations. I blame the players, not the coaching. It's a different perspective because coaching has obviously been one of the key headlines of this team's disappointment this season. And the reason I wanted to read that too was because I think there is something to be said about a lack of execution. I don't love the play calling. I don't love it. I can see where some of it could work, but at the same time, the execution, especially of the line of scrimmage, is just nowhere near good enough. And if you watched a lot of the other games on Saturday, you saw the difference it makes when you dominate the line of scrimmage, when you're able to move other human beings up and down the field, when you're able to protect the quarterback and you're able to get these route combinations to get to play out, your offense is going to look a lot better. But one of the reasons why you're at the bottom in so many offensive categories is the lack of execution to where plays are broken from the jump, right? Lenore Sellers was pressured on 45% of his dropbacks on Saturday. He was pressured on 65% of his dropbacks against LSU. In those two games, your plays don't even get to be run, which when that happens, that also highlights some of the failures you might make in play calling later in the game, because then you really get to see that it wasn't maybe the best decision because it might have had a chance at some point if it's blocked particularly well. But so many times in these last two games has a play been doomed within milliseconds, right? And Lenoris has had to run for his life. And from a non-South Carolina fan, you know, as unwatchable as the offense has been at times this year, watching Lenoris run around and trying to make something happen does have some type of entertainment value.
It does.
It kind of does. Parker Fleming did tweet that, you know, during the week. He goes, well, I would love to see them block for Lenoris a little bit. Him running for his life does make for entertaining TV. It's hard to get anything going when you're constantly running for your life and trying to make things happen whenever the play gets blown up. And when you play two elite defenses like they've had in the last 2 weeks, it has really exposed the warts that were already there with this team.
To that point, exactly, the warts that were already there. And so, yeah, I agree with Kentucky Joe. Obviously, the players, there's enough blame on this blame pie for everybody to eat, right?
Team sport.
Everybody can get this blame, and I agree with that. Several players have not risen to the expectations. They have not met their levels. But ultimately, it's the coach's job and responsibility to get their players there. And they have failed to do that on almost every single level throughout the staff. And when you look at the offensive line specifically, hey, there are 4 other coaches in that staff room who could have had the opportunity to stand up and say, hey, we're not good enough right now. Mm-hmm. Right? Sean Elliott's been there the whole time. Markel Blackwell's been there the whole time. The offensive coordinator's been there the whole time. They all are responsible for the offense as a whole because they all sit in the staff meeting. And so they can't just walk out of the staff meeting and say, oh, yeah, we're going to be good. Or as you know, Joe was saying earlier, hope is fine, but hope is not a strategy for winning.
No.
And you can't walk out of staff meeting and say, man, well, I hope we're getting this block. I would position that they haven't been doing this all year. And this is another reason why I think I don't like the idea that we don't get a chance to see practices anymore. Mm-hmm. The open practices in the season, because we probably could have seen a lot of this, and a lot of us, regardless of what the coaches were saying over there, and we're improving and we're getting better and blah, blah. That's cool, but what my eyes would have seen in the preseason would have said, we're not going to be very good. But we don't get those opportunities anymore. And so there's a big disconnect between what the coaches are telling us and what we're actually seeing on the field. And eventually, the jig is up.
You have to play publicly sometime.
Exactly.
Now,
but we're going to see it.
Is that something that happens at most schools? Have a lot of the schools now closed their practices?
Yeah, it's a college football thing.
It is all
sort
around.
of where
Okay.
we've gone away from that. So it's not just us. But
Okay.
the thing is, eventually, you're gonna have to show what we've been talking about, and we're here. And it didn't just start; they've been bad for a long time.
So ultimately, the play has to be exhibited. You can't just do rehearsals all the time. Eventually, the rehearsal is what leads you to the play. And if you're bad at the rehearsal, more than likely, you're going to be bad whenever it's showtime at 7 o'clock on Friday night or whatever it is, the play is happening. It's what we've seen right here, and look, there's so many different questions. Like Rodney even it hops in with this very same discussion here on the Firehouse Subs text line. He says, if it's all on that, would that mean that we have zero talent and ability? So who's to blame for that? Ultimately, this is a coaching issue no matter how you cut it. I mean, I think there is talent, and it's more of a development thing too. Like the players haven't developed, and they're also not executing. They're not executing because maybe they haven't developed, right? This is everything kind of feeds into each other, right? Like this does not happen in a vacuum. This happens over the course of an entire football season. Whether guys didn't get better enough early in the season when camp was going around, also a possibility. They haven't gotten better once the season goes along, where they haven't taken to coaching, or the coaching isn't reaching the players because the messaging hasn't been good enough. A lot of things factor into this, right? Like you don't lose the games you have the last 2 weeks where you have seemingly found ways to lose games, whether it's a bunch of penalties on the road and not taking advantage of forcing the other team into 3 turnovers, or on Saturday where you don't take advantage of Oklahoma shooting themselves in the foot with 8 accepted first half penalties in that game where they kept inviting you into the game. Those aren't accidents. Your inability to take advantage of those is not an accident. It's the combination of all of these type of things over the course of the last several months leading you to this point, and this is where it becomes more publicly exposed.
Yeah, and that's where the point you just said, publicly exposed. And that's why I was nervous about this game, because I did know in that 12:45 slot, there was an opportunity for embarrassment. Mm-hmm. We said that. They didn't step up to the challenge, and they got embarrassed. And they should. They should feel rightfully embarrassed by that game in front of their home fans. And as I stated earlier in the 6 o'clock, and I'll say it again in 7, I'll say it again in the 8, you can be a Gamecock fan through and through, loyal to your team, and have some very serious questions and concerns about the program and the direction of the program. Those two things are not mutually exclusive, even though sometimes they would like you to believe that, like you're just supposed to be a Cinco fan and just get in line and listen. You watch the game.
You have a brain of your own.
You have a brain. You've been watching sports for a long time. You know when things aren't looking the way they should, and that product on Saturday did not look up to satisfactory standards.
No, absolutely not. And I think the reaction of this team and coaching staff after the game is appropriate, right? I mean, they know that it's not acceptable, and that's why the vibes are so bad. Sometimes you get in a press conference afterwards, and you can feel the vibes being really bad. And we're going to hear from some of that press conference after the game that kind of exemplify how bad the vibes are. But sometimes you can just feel it. It's not what a coach says or alludes to or what they don't say. Sometimes you sit in there and you can feel it. It radiates, right? Not to sound completely new agey, but you can feel it, right? And there have been a couple times I've sat in press conferences.
Vibes can be good and bad.
And bad. I've sat in press conferences where after a game when you're talking to coaches and players where you feel, oh, they've turned a corner. That happened last year, right? I want to say for me, it was the Texas A&M game where it's like, oh, they've turned a corner. Something's changed, and it's a good change. After LSU, it was the vibe that you felt was exacerbated and just like a constant searching for answers, and it felt helpless on Saturday. Before anybody spoke, it felt helpless. And that, again, is a culmination of everything that's happened this year. A frustration of a lack of a development, a frustration of whether it be play calling, coaching, players. It's all just kind of led to this.
Yeah, and there's several plays in watching this game that exemplify that. One, the sequence of plays or decisions at the end of the first half where You have the Lenoris throws it to Brady Hunt. He catches it, runs out of bounds. Time runs out. You don't get a chance to kick a field goal. That's an example of failure on multiple levels. 2, the fake punt. Failure, multiple levels. 3, the trips into the red zone of the 2 of them. Failure, multiple levels. And you just see this building over and over. You can point to pinpoint examples, not a play, but sequences of choices and decisions made by players and coaches that do not lead to winning football. And that's the most discouraging part, because after watching that game, it's very hard for us to see a path. We're gonna have to get some extra super bifocal garnet glasses tomorrow. Super bifocal.
That's assuming they're not broken.
You're gonna have to find some real strong garnet glasses.
That's assuming some of them are salvageable. We'll go back to the AAA Heating and Air phone lines where Will is on the line. Will, good morning. Welcome back to the early game.
Hey, good morning. How y'all doing?
Pretty good. You doing all right this morning?
I'm trying to.
I appreciate the effort.
Man, where do I start? It's been a really, really, really tough season watching this Carolina football team play, man. I'm gonna be honest. I hope the fan base, including myself, does not Beamer. I'm trying to stay the course and stay faithful with him, because I really do like him and I really do want him to do really well. But man, let Mike Shula call 3 runs up the middle and not get nothing. And this offense being so predictable, run up the middle and then throw it on 3rd down. Yeah, that's not going to fly. And then if you go back and look at the tape, there's a lot of plays where Lenore Sellers had wide receivers open and he didn't throw it to them. And I'm starting to feel like, the hype train was a little too high here, and maybe Lenore Sellers wasn't as good as we've all thought. Yeah, he can run around, but man, he's missed some targets, and it's baffling to say the least. And then you got the offensive line issues and problems. The defense can keep us in every single game, but if the offense can't score when we're inside the 9-yard line, man, and then when a reporter asks Shane Beamer about changes being made, Shane Beamer snaps at the reporter. Like, dude, we don't have to be geniuses to know that Mike Shula's play calling sucks. My 10-year-old son can look at that and say, what are we doing? You know what I'm saying? And I don't want this fan base to turn on Shane Beamer, but I'm going to tell you what, if we lose to Alabama worse than we lose to Ole Miss, worse than we lost to Oklahoma, and we lose to Ole Miss and Texas A&M, worse, it's going to get ugly in town.
Yeah, and the likelihood of that, Will, is unfortunately very high. Like the conversations we're about to have on this program are going to continually get a little tougher, just because what you have ahead is hard. I saw what Alabama did to Tennessee. I saw what Ole Miss has done to most teams, and what they should have done to Georgia. They had Georgia beat, and they kind of let that one slip. But I've seen what they've done to everybody else, and I've seen Texas A&M this year, and I, honest to God, believe Texas A&M, outside of Ohio State, may be the best team in college football, up there with anybody else. There's a reason they're top 3 right now, and there's a reason they're the only team in the SEC that's undefeated. Oh, and those Ole Miss and A&M games are on the road. It's tough. It's bleak. And we've had a few people on the Firehouse Subs text line, and with what Will alluded to, talking about Shane Beamer's reaction to Jack's question. We're going to play that for the morning meeting. We're going to hear more from Shane Beamer after the 26-7 loss to Oklahoma to kick off our morning meeting coming up next.
Preston here for our folks at Integrated Media. Listen, man, I had a real sad boy football weekend. All my squads lost, from high school to college, NFL. It was all bad. But maybe it would have been better if I would have been sitting outside watching it on a Samsung Terrace TV from the folks from Integrated Media. Maybe it would have been better if I could have been listening to the high school show at night, listening to my guys Elijah and Justin Hall. But I wasn't, because I didn't have Integrated Media, so it was still a sad boy weekend for me. So how can I get that fixed? I can get Wi-Fi that works indoors and outdoors. I could control all of my devices from just remote. I could have home theater set up and adjust my thermostat and monitor my security systems from my cell phone, and I could call the folks from Integrated Media. Call Nathan and Michael at 803-948-8327. That's 803-948-8327. Or reach them online at integratedmediainc.com.
Traffic moving really well this morning. It's a Friday, or it's not a Friday, it's a Monday, and traffic is not Mondaying for sure. So we do love to see that. Nothing to report at this point. And as far as that forecast goes, man, it's just looking really nice. Sunny all week long, 73 today, the overnight low of 45. 79 tomorrow, and then we stay in the mid-70s for the remainder of the week. But again, those overnight lows are going to be in the probably mid to upper 40s, so going to want to bundle up just a little bit as you head out each morning. But right now, 53 on the early game.
Reaction Monday continuing here on the game, and we've got plenty of you wanting to weigh in. 803-404-6100, the AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We'll go out to Michael, who's been waiting patiently. Michael, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Hey, team, how y'all doing?
Pretty good. You doing all right this morning?
No. I want to
I appreciate your honesty.
Yeah. Listen, I need to tell you that, you know, I've been a Gamecock since like 1968. You know, I've been loyal to my team. Even when no one else in my neighborhood cheered for the Gamecocks, I was there. You know, all the way up to the day, I wear a Sterling Sharp jersey because I believe in my team. And I'm glad Preston said something. That it's all right to say how loyal you are to your team, man, and you believe in them, but sometimes the truth has to reveal itself. I know we evaluate these kids before we bring them in. Not only do we see what they're doing in high school, but we see the potentials. That's what coaches do. They see the potentials, and then we bring them here. And year after year, if these kids are not developed, it's not the kid. Somewhere along the line, we have to say it's the coaching. You know, and I believe in our coaching staff. I mean, like I'm feeling this way because usually this time of the year, I got to pay homage to him. My spirit will get picked up by Gamecock Larry, but that's not going to happen right now. So we're going to have to buckle down on the coaching, and you have to, some tough decisions. Shane is going to have to make some tough decisions. You know, some things that the name brand don't get it all the time. As great as we like Jordache jeans back in the days, I wouldn't wear them now. So that don't get it today. We're going to, and as far as my main man Shane, who I love, you all said it right. You got to get ready for those tough questions. They're going to come, and I would not snap at the person who not only going to talk about my coaching, but can write about it and get it out to the public. That's just not a person you really want to kind of upset. So you got to be prepared for those kind of questions. I'm going to support my Gamecocks to the end. But somewhere along the line, y'all, we got to make some serious changes. I'm going to say this in the end. Talking about the world's greatest optimist who jumped off the top of the Empire State Building as he passed the 50th floor. Someone heard him say, "So far, so good." But reality has set in for me. I'm past that point. It's looking real ugly the rest of these few games. Man, I love you, brothers, and go Cox.
That was good stuff, Michael. So far, so good. Call the day.
Winner.
Yeah, winner.
For sure.
Michael will be getting a shout out in winners at the end of the show. I appreciate the honesty in the attempts at optimism. And if you've run out of optimism, I am here to tell you I completely understand. Get it. I completely get it. 803-404-6100, AAA Heating and Air phone lines. We'll get to Kyle next. Kyle, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning. How are y'all?
Great.
Doing well, Kyle.
I just like the previous caller. I'm wrapping my mind around why Beamer got so perturbed
Good word.
with the reporter. Is you get paid a lot of money, and when you get paid a lot of money, you have to answer difficult questions. And I really don't understand why he got so upset.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a fair observation, and that's a very fair point. The person at the top is gonna have to ask the toughest questions.
Yep.
You know, like when you're at a restaurant, you don't talk to the server. You say, I want to speak to the manager.
Right. The manager gets paid to get to talk to the disgruntled, patron. Like that's how that works. And I think, and just hearing what Kyle was saying there too, is I don't know if a lot of people have a problem with like the what, right? But it's the how it was answered. I think the subject matter of what was being said afterwards, I guess you could expect in that situation, right? I was fully not expecting him to go up there and say, "Yep, you know what? That's it. We're making the change right now." That's not going to happen. The how you answer that is what becomes a story or not a story. Usually, what is said in a question like that after the game does not become newsworthy unless you make it newsworthy. And that's the whole point, is that type of testiness became newsworthy. Like Brian Kelly's a good example. After the Florida game, they win 20-10. They only scored 20 points, 13 of those on offense, despite DJ Lagway giving him 5 freebies through the air, right? And he was asked why the offense is struggling, because the offense looked really bad. I watched that Florida LSU game. LSU's offense looked really bad. If Brian Kelly said, yeah, we underperformed, we're glad we got the win, we underperformed, it's still a work in progress early in the season, but we feel confident that we can be able to work things out, would not have been on SportsCenter. That clip would not have made SportsCenter. You know what clip did make SportsCenter? We won the game. Why are you asking that? We won the game.
You guys.
It became a you guys thing, and that type of response made its way to SportsCenter. It made so many rounds on the internet, right? It became a popular clip. It became something that became even further, something that further exacerbated the issue at hand. Again, it's how you handle yourself in that moment as to whether or not it becomes newsworthy or not. And now this has just created another thing along with the things that you have to deal with already inside the walls of that facility.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a case of, man, so you don't have to say everything you think. There has to be something. He could have been thinking whatever he wanted to think and could have said a version of the truth, right? He could have said a version of the truth. Hey, man, we're evaluating everything. Everything's on the table right now. We'll see where we are. Right now, we're just focused on blah, blah, blah. You could have done that. You could have went, and like I said, the second part of the answer to me was fine.
Yeah.
You know, listen,
cool
I know you all don't see it. I understand why you might have questions, but we're working as hard as we can. These players are giving it their all, and we're going to get this thing right. That would have been an acceptable answer. You might have called BS if you were listening, but that's not my issue. But the as Kyle said, great word, he was perturbed, the snideness, and then kind of like the dismissal. That's the part that I think a lot of people don't like, because believe it or not, this fan base has given that staff a lot of leeway and the benefit of the doubt, which Shane has earned. I want to be very clear. He's earned that, but they've given him that, especially with the offensive coordinator, because there has been nothing to this point that would make anybody give Mike Shula any benefit of the doubt. Going back to the spring, do you remember coming out of the spring thinking, man, it's going to be an offensive juggernaut? No, not really. But we was like, okay, we'll give them some time. The bowl game. All right, it was the first bowl game. The summer. All right. This has been a building process, and I don't think the fan base has been irrational at all. Again, Jack could have been a real jerk if he would have just, hey, Shane, what about these numbers?
And just reeled them off.
But he didn't do that. So, listen, play on. We'll see what the next press conference holds.
We'll take more of your calls next and also get into the other team in the state. 2 teams in the state with high expectations. Teams that we thought could meet and make for one of the best matchups in the history of a really good rivalry in both seasons have turned into disasters. How did that happen? We'll discuss that and your calls next. Tell us about it, Willie.
A true song as real as my tears.
Oh, they're real, all right.
But you've no need to fear it,
Yeah.
'cause no one will.
Yeah.
'Cause sad songs and waltzes aren't selling this year.
We can't sit around here and be sad boys.
Yeah. Well, we're going to, Shane. Even though Willie's trying to tell us that sad songs and waltzes aren't selling this year. Selling like hotcakes today, brother. They're selling like hotcakes.
And they're not just selling in Columbia.
No. They're being sold in the upstate. We even have fans on our Firehouse Subs text line. One texter says, being a Clemson fan, we might want to take one out of Shane Beamer's playbook and make a midseason change. Whatever they're doing on offense right now is not working. My dad has been an IPTAY member for over 35 years. He said after the last week, he doesn't know if he wants to give money to a program that does not embrace change.
Oh, no.
Nobody's feeling good.
Oh, no.
Nobody's feeling good. Carolina fans, Clemson fans, it's the handshaking meme, being 3-4 after sky-high expectations to begin the season. We're in the same boat. I guess misery loves company, even if it's the company of somebody you didn't want to share it with at the beginning of the year.
You could have a garnet and orange rag holding each other, united.
Yeah, united, yeah, like the Bloods and Crips. Being mad at our football team because Clemson lost to SMU on Saturday. South Carolina lost to Oklahoma. They're both 3-4. And at the beginning of the season, we're thinking, hey, this could be maybe the most talent-filled Palmetto Bowl yet. And it was certainly looking like it. Like in terms of talent,
it can still be.
It can still be.
But talent don't win ball games.
No. And if you look at it, right now, there's still several players from Clemson projected to be first-round draft picks, right? Like you look at somebody like TJ Parker, still projected to be a first-round draft pick. Lenore Sellers still projected to be the first-round draft pick. At the beginning of the year, right, you had Peter Woods, T.J. Parker, Antonio Williams, Cade Klubnik, all in one specific Todd McShay mock draft that we saw before the season started. And for South Carolina, depending on the mock you always saw Lenore Sellers, and then you might see one with Nick Harbor, you might see one with Jalen Kilgore. Well, the stocks for a lot of those players have fallen. And it's starting to get worse by the week. And it went from having potentially 6 players from both teams being first-round players to right now, I'm looking on Tankathon, we are now down to 3.
The quarterback and the 2 defensive linemen? Our quarterback, their 2 D linemen?
No Peter Woods sighting in the Tankathon one.
Whoa.
Peter Woods falling out. TJ Parker at 11, Lenore Sellers at 14, Avion Terrell at 15.
Okay.
And that's what it's down to. And I just using Tankathon as a reference because they do a pretty good job of reflecting how NFL scouts are feeling. A lot of these are composites, but that's what a bad season will do. And with so much excitement for that game, I was looking back on it at the beginning of the season thinking I covered an epic Palmetto Bowl last year. This is a great rivalry. I have fallen in love with the in-state dynamic. Even though you're not in the same conference, the hatred's still there. It's become one of my favorite rivalries in college football, getting to be a part of it in this capacity. And I was like, I almost, I don't want to wish my life away, but I cannot wait for that last weekend in November. I think I can wait now.
Counterpoint.
Maybe this is the most fun one because you're trying to salvage a really bad season.
Maybe we both really need this game, and this game might be actually huger than it was before because, boy, you might really need this game. So that's slight counterpoint.
Slight counterpoint. I guess if you're going to have it, if it's going to be between 2 teams with disappointing seasons, maybe with a bowl bid on the line, that'd require South Carolina to beat one of the remaining SEC teams. But there's a chance that that's the salvage bowl. It's not the Palmetto Bowl. It's the salvage bowl because right now it's bad for both. And I just absolutely, at the beginning of the year, did not anticipate both of these teams being 3-4 at this time. 2 hours down, 1 to go. The early game, 3rd and long hour coming up next. Now we'll get back to the phones. We'll be taking your calls, your texts, and taking a look at the other happenings from around college football, including 3 teams in the top 10 that I would have never thought would be in the top 10 in late October. That's next.
Hey, are you looking for a countertop for a kitchen or bath? Maybe you're just wanting to update your yard with some beautiful hardscaping. Well, I have the place. It's Carolina Stone Craftsman just outside Columbia in Chapin. You know, they really do understand that kitchen and bath projects can be a significant investment, and that's why they work really hard to deliver the highest quality and most affordable granite, marble, and quartz while providing the best customer service. It's really simple. Great countertops with no compromises. We started visiting Carolina Stone Craftsman when we remodeled a couple of bathrooms, got some cabinetry, needed some countertops. Someone said, hey, why don't you check them out? And we were thrilled that we did. And I'm telling you, if you are in the market for countertops for your kitchen or bath, I encourage you to reach out to Carolina Stone Craftsman and be sure to tell them that Jen Jensen sent you. They are family owned and operated. They are just beyond Columbia in Chapin, and I'm assuring you, beyond your expectations. Check them out online, carolinastonecraftsman.com. I-20 westbound between mile markers 80 and 77 do have some slow-going traffic. And same goes I-26 eastbound between mile marker 101 and I-20. Kind of standard fare, but it is slow-moving today. A little bit of stop and go, so just allow for that. 73 and sunny today. The overnight low 45. Sunny and 79 tomorrow. Sunny and 76 on Wednesday. But just a reminder that the overnight lows are going to be in the 40s. So the mornings are going to be a little bit chilly. Make sure you bundle up. And we're at kind of that time of year where we're just kind of needing to layer a little bit. But right now it's pretty darn nice. 53 on 107.5 The Game.
of the early game. The early game, third and long hours. Right now, I'm Elijah Campbell. He's Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. Ed Bird is in the house. Engineer Randy Young, also ITH, and together, cumulatively, as a team, breaking down Oklahoma's 26-7 win over South Carolina. Gamecocks falling to 3-4 on the season. And we're just going back and kind of revisiting our initial thoughts on this game. And Preston, I think when I try to sum this thing up about what this game was about to me, it was, number one, the offensive line issues. Technically, improvement from the LSU game because you did not have the procedural penalties that plagued you against LSU. And you technically had fewer pressures surrendered against Oklahoma than you did LSU. However, nowhere near adequate enough to be able to win this game. But more importantly, this is the second straight game where, one way or another, the team that you were playing, whether it be LSU or Oklahoma, was doing something to keep you in the game. For LSU, that something was turning the ball over. You forced 3 turnovers against LSU to keep you within striking distance. You never took advantage of it. In the Oklahoma game, it was a decent performance from Oklahoma's offense, but they committed a ton of penalties, especially on defense. A normally disciplined unit allowed you to be able to get multiple red zone trips in the first half. They kept inviting you into the game. You never RSVP'd for the second straight game. And because of that, you found a way to lose another game.
And you started with the offensive line issues, and I think that's the thing that's the most glaring for everybody to see. And it was apparent. The first drive, you go down on the goal line, 3 runs in a row, stuffed. So people had questions about the play calling going into the game. Well, you didn't solve that because you ran the same play 3 times. At least it seems like to us. We're not in the huddle. We don't know whether it was a 32 zone or a 33 zone. It all looked the same. Bad.
And that's the problem.
Right? So that's the thing. You can get into the technicalities like, well, we actually ran different plays. It don't matter. It all looked the same. Bad. So there was play calling being questioned. And then people were questioning the offensive line. And at the same time, your offensive line gets blown off the ball several occasions. And so the 2 things that people had serious questions about going into the game were unfortunately answered very early. And that set the tone for where the game was going to felt like it was going for the rest of the game.
Setting the tone's the right way to describe that because the Boo Birds were out early and often, and it started the first real signs of a disgruntled crowd came on that failed 4th down conversion in the first half of the game, right? When you had 1st and goal from the 9. You ran 3 straight plays, whether they were outside zone, inside zone, whatever. They were all stuffed. They were all traditional handoffs, and Lenore Sellers didn't have a chance to make a play with the ball in his hand and not handing it off on 4th and goal. And that's my gripe with that play. My biggest gripe is that you have one player that is the one that's supposed to give you a chance in these games, and you essentially take the ball out of his hands in the first 3 plays. And by the time you give him a chance, your margin for error is slim, right? He has 1 chance to do it as opposed to 4. I don't mind going for it, but if I'm going to have 4 plays to get in the end zone, I want to live and die with the ball being in the hands of number 16.
And that's what Mike Shula made his whole calling card on. His whole calling card is that I coached Cam Newton in 2015. Awesome. Well, you know what they did with Cam Newton in 2015 when they got in goal line situations? They ran him a lot. They helped him a lot. What's the infamous clip that goes around with Cam and Clay Matthews?
You watched film, huh?
Watch film. Watch this. We didn't give our best player an opportunity to make plays. And again, it's what it looks like from the fans. I'm sure there were different versions of the inside zone call, maybe different blocking schemes, but it doesn't matter because this is what it looked like to us. And that was the first drive, and the people's worst fears were confirmed immediately as the game started. And it only set the tone. One of the questions I always ask you bring this up, and I love this concept. The score going to halftime was 14-7. That is 1 score away, 1 play away from it being tied. We were getting the ball back. Did anybody feel like that?
No. Yeah, even Jen. Yeah, Jen. In the press box, we looked at each other on a few instances and said, it's a 7-point game. It feels like a 17-point game.
Oh, 100%. You knew right away, like, if once Oklahoma had 2 scores, we were toast. Like, you just knew that was, it shouldn't have been insurmountable, but it was.
And that field goal that Oklahoma kicked to make it 17-7, which was like a 55-yarder, and that kid was nails.
Yeah.
He drilled that kick. Once it got to a 2-score game, that's when Jen and I kind of looked at each other and were like, it feels insurmountable. And when it's a 10-point deficit with that much time left, it shouldn't feel insurmountable.
To illustrate that point, we have an old guy chat that's consistently going throughout the game. And it's just, for as much as people play football, we're just fans. Right.
We're just revert back to,
we're just
to
being fans. And somebody came into the chat because they hadn't been watching the game, and they were going through the chat, and they were like, man, what's wrong with y'all? It's 14-7. Lenora Sellers is 10 of 10. Y'all acting like we losing by 30. We were like, buddy, you haven't been watching the game.
Spiritually, it feels like it's 30.
And to his point, he was just coming in at halftime. And he was like, what? When I go through this chat, what's up, man? Y'all acting crazy. No, sir, you just haven't been watching this game.
And it's a reflection of kind of where this team is right now. Because you were in a similar position last week. You were even going into the fourth quarter down only 7. It was a 1-score game for almost the entirety of the LSU game, and you had a feeling that they weren't going to be able to take advantage of the mistakes LSU was making. And in this game, I don't think it was as much in terms of just like the actual football. Oklahoma was making mistakes. They played really conservatively on offense, but defensively they made a lot of mistakes to allow you to move the ball, right? Like there was a defensive pass interference that helped move the ball. There was a late hit on one play that helped you move the ball even further down the field. They kept giving you chances on offense to get into the red zone. That, like the second red zone drive, fueled by Oklahoma penalties. I've said the stat before. I think it's about 8 accepted penalties in that first half. You got to decline one because you still got a first down regardless. So it was essentially 9 mistakes made by Oklahoma that resulted in a flag being thrown, giving you a chance to get yourself in this game, tie it up, take a lead, whatever, and you just didn't do it. And the fact that we're starting to see that now becoming a trend with this football team tells you a lot, because you could say the same thing about the Missouri loss too, where you go into the fourth quarter knowing you haven't played your best or what you could even imagine the best of your team looking like, and you were still up 2 going into that fourth quarter, and then you lost it in that fourth quarter. That's 3 losses in SEC play, in games that you have to have, where you were given invitations and you just simply declined them.
Well, based on one of the criteria that they judge themselves on is dominating the fourth quarter, and they have not done that. Obviously, so when you go back to the criteria, run the ball, stop the run, didn't do that, did not dominate the fourth quarter. You did not. Smart football was negotiable, but I would say no on several different instances. So based on the way they judge themselves, they are not living up to their standard of expectations.
How many times were we in the red zone?
2 times.
Just 2.
Not enough, obviously. But one time was successful, one time was unsuccessful.
Yeah. And
that was the thing with this Oklahoma defense. Like, you knew you weren't going to live in the red zone, right? Which is one of the reasons why I don't mind going for it on fourth down there, because the new points would be at a premium, but red zone trips more so at a premium. You're going to have to bank on maybe playing to Oklahoma's aggressiveness and beating them over the top and getting an explosive play, because you knew you just weren't going to get in the red zone a ton against them. Like, LSU's defense is really good. It is elite. Oklahoma's is better, right? Oklahoma's is I would not argue with anyone that would come up to me and say, Elijah, Oklahoma has the best defense in the United States of America. I have no real honest pushback against that. You knew red zone trips are going to be at a premium, and you're going to have to take advantage of what you are in the red zone. And in red zone situations, that may be one of the worst things this offense is good at, right? I think going into this game, they scored only 6 touchdowns on 13 red zone trips, if I saw that correctly. With as many numbers as I consume on a daily basis, that's not going to cut it against anybody, no matter if you're playing Oklahoma's defense or if you're playing Kentucky's defense. It's hard to win that way when you do get red zone trips that you just simply don't take advantage of it.
Well, it works directly against what your weaknesses are. We know that this offensive line has not proven that they can move a man from one space to another. You have to do that in the red zone. Lenore Sellers, though he's excellent at a lot of things, making decisions in tight windows is something that he's still working on. And what happens when you get in the red zone? The windows get tighter. The decision time gets shorter. So it's two things that are weaknesses of your team that you're inviting to be strengthened. It just doesn't happen like that. So you have to recognize what you are good and not good at, and try and game plan towards your strengths instead of away from them, or just trying to be stubborn and saying we're gonna do it regardless of what the situation garners. So I don't know. The play calling going into that situation was left a lot to be desired.
Has Lenora, do you think some of, I'm being sarcastic a little bit, but his mental acuity or whatever, he might have just plain been so tired from running for his life all the game.
That is a real thing.
I mean, what was the stat? I know Jordan Kay tweeted it, that at LSU, they track every yard and inch that you run during a game. And I think that stat was, in terms of just like the raw running around he did in that game, obviously not all of the yards are going forward. He basically ran a half a mile during that game.
Scrambling. I mean,
yeah, all scrambling.
That's just not efficient. And again, it's just like, okay, do you just get fatigued at that point where it kind of messes with the rest of your game?
Yeah, there's a real element to that. There is a very real element to that. And going back to a point that we made earlier, because we talked about, the criteria this team uses to measure success and how they want to be successful, that dominate the fourth quarter thing. I just went through, quick check through all the box scores and tallied it up. You want to guess what South Carolina's record is in the fourth quarter this year in games?
Ooh, this is a good one, because the games that they won, is it an 0-4?
It's not an 0-4.
Okay.
2-5. They're 2-5 in the fourth quarter. The only fourth quarters they won this year, Virginia Tech, they outscored Virginia Tech 14-3 in Kentucky. That was the only games in which they won the fourth quarter.
They iced the Kentucky game, and they had a chance to finish off the Virginia Tech game. Yeah.
And really, if you want to talk about dominating it, I mean, Virginia Tech may be the only one that you dominated. Now, I will say you ran the ball well enough in the fourth quarter against Kentucky to keep them away. So I'll give them that. You dominated the fourth quarter in 2 games. One against a team in the ACC who's one of the worst in the ACC, a team that fired their coach, 3 weeks in? Is that 3 or 4 weeks in? They fired Brett Pry. I think it was 4. But where you fired 3. No, it's actually 3 now that I count. But 3 games in which they lose their head coach, and then against Kentucky, where if the buyout wasn't so big, they would have fired Mark Stoops already. That alone isn't going to be able to cut. And that just goes back to kind of my original point of this entire game was, even in the games in which another team is giving you a chance and leaving the door open, you're not walking through there. And last year, when teams left that door open, you walked through there. When Clemson left the door open, you walked through. When Texas A&M left it open, you walked through. Way too many times this year, you have opportunities because the other team is maybe failing to execute a certain thing, right? Again, LSU taking care of the ball, Oklahoma, penalties, and you're just not making them pay for mistakes. And you're getting into the part now, a 3-game stretch where you're playing 3 teams on your schedule that simply do not make a ton of mistakes, if any. Especially Alabama here on Saturday, who seemingly has not made a mistake in the last 5 weeks.
When you talk about opening the door, all I'm envisioning is like the clear sliding door that nobody sees, and they run into it. It's like, "Doh!" That's pretty much what this has looked like. It's like we can see the opportunity, but we just keep smacking ourselves in the face.
Yeah, walking straight into the screen door. And I wish I could tell you that I haven't been there before, but I definitely have. So I totally get it. Sometimes I have the spatial awareness of a dog, and I will walk in to a screen door. Coming up next, Preston's got his observations from the weekend, and he's got accolades to give out. And those accolades come in the form of thorns, buds, and roses. Those are going to be handed out next here in the early game. mind having to clean, but it's a chore. Cleaning is absolutely a chore, and I've got to do it more now because really in my house, we host more people in the fall than we do any other season. So making sure that my carpets are cleaned and my house is cleaned is a priority. But on Sundays, when I usually allocate that chore for that day, I start feeling a little lazier. And my friends at Zero Res are here to make sure that they can
Looking at some slowdowns on I-20 westbound between mile marker 80 and 77. Just some slow traffic to be mindful of. Also, I-26 eastbound. Again, typical slowdowns from about mile marker 101 to I-20. 73 and sunshine today, that overnight low of 45. Then tomorrow, going to be sunny and just almost 80, which would be great. But then we're back in the low to mid 70s for the remainder of the week. But again, a reminder, the lows in the mid 40s. So going to kind of want to layer up for the week. Right now, though, 54 on 107.5 The Game.
A lot went down in the sports world this weekend. Preston Thorne watched. He observed. He took notes right on that envelope that you see right there, that folder, which means it's time to give out some of those accolades in thorns, buds, and roses.
On the early game, 107.5, The Game.
All right, y'all. Sad boy weekend for your boy. It was a tough football weekend. The Green Wave lost. The Gamecocks lost. Rise down. Tough spot for your boy.
Mac Jones.
So there's
actually playing really well for them.
Kyle Shanahan, quarterback merchant.
Yeah, that's why they hired him.
He might be the guy.
That's why they hired him.
Thorns. Let's get started. This is the most political statement I'll ever make on this radio station. I am a single issue voter when it comes to taking the points. Shane, staff, crew, first quarter. I understand. Me and Elijah will have a football philosophical conversation tomorrow about this. But I need you to take the points early in the game. I just think we're not going to score a lot of them. We need to get them. The problem with that is I also am very much annoyed by field goal kickers missing field goals. So
that takes that part of the equation out where you say take the points.
There's a
it
quandary.
operates under the assumption they make them.
I do recognize.
One job.
Yes, I do recognize that I do have a bit of a quandary when it comes to that because taking the points doesn't mean you always get the points. But early in the game, it just frustrates me at that point. Okay, not buds today, birds, because the Boo Birds were out flying. And they migrated. They might have been migrating. The Boo Birds might be migrating between Greenville and Columbia, a rare, strange species that is flying around the state of South Carolina. So if you see any birds flying around, those are Boo Birds. And yes, Clemson and Carolina are equally harvesting these Boo Birds. Like Mike Tyson, calling pigeons.
I love my pigeons.
The Boo Birds
Let's
are
call
flying.
the pigeons.
And rightfully so. After that first drive, when everything that you worst feared would go wrong did go wrong, from play calling to offensive line play to quarterback getting sacked, defense giving up a touchdown on the first drive, you had every right to boo. Mm-hmm. It's one of your only courses of action to show that you're not pleased with the team. You showed up. You showed up through fair traffic. You showed up for an early game. You showed up when it wasn't possible. So you showed up, and the representation was not up to the standard. So you do have that right. Roses. 17 roses for the possibly greatest baseball performance we might have ever seen.
Yeah.
That was lost in the mix on Friday night. Shohei Ohtani struck out 10 batters and hit 3 home runs, not in the series, in the same game. What are we talking about? That is absolutely outrageous. 10 strikeouts, 3 home runs in the same game. Major League Baseball game, not Little League.
No.
I think I've seen somebody do that in Little League, maybe Parks Field or something like that in Somerville. But for a person to do this in the major leagues, for his team to advance to the World Series, I was very hesitant to say that maybe we've never seen it, but I think I'm very confident. I don't think I've ever seen – I know I've never seen that, but I think that might have been the greatest individual baseball performance ever.
Not only do I know I haven't seen it, I feel confident to say that unless he does it again, I never will see it again.
Yeah.
The funny thing, when he played for the Angels, it was – the headline was always Shohei Ohtani pitches and hits in the same game and does something that has not been seen since someone named Skippy Doolittle in 1902 did it, in the dead ball era, and the Angels lose 6-4.
Yes.
That was usually the headline, right?
Shohei would have 3 RBIs. Mike Trout would hit a solo home run. They'd score 4 runs and lose. Yeah.
Shohei Ohtani, 7 innings of scoreless ball. Bullpen comes in and gives up 8. That's usually what it was. Used to be.
So shout out to Shohei Ohtani, one of the greatest ever. We can etch that right now, but also gave the most amazing performance in a high-pressure situation, and he performs unlike anybody we've ever seen before. So shout out to him. If you're not watching him, if you're not paying attention, Shohei Ohtani is a master at the game of baseball. We are witnessing something that if you just appreciate athletics, You need to lock in on that. Elijah, those are our thorns, buds, and roses for the weekend.
You know, I used to feel bad for Shohei Ohtani when he would do something that Major League Baseball hasn't seen since Skippy Doolittle, before World War I, and be like, oh, I feel bad that you did that and the team lost. Man, we got to free Shohei Ohtani. We need to see this guy play playoff baseball. And he plays for the Dodgers, and now I'm tired of it.
I get it. It makes sense.
They're too good.
Can't he go to another team like the Cubs?
Please. Anybody else?
And as I said,
Not
the
Yankees
thing about
either.
the Dodgers is you want to dislike them because they are the evil empire.
Yes.
They are buying baseball. But they all kind of like decent people.
The pieces are likable.
Yeah, they're all like Mookie Betts and Freddie Freeman, and they're all kind of likable guys.
And they're all superstars. Like, it is an emotional conundrum here.
Yeah, through his interpreter, which there's some varying degrees of how much Shohei actually needs an interpreter, but he relies on him.
For most baseball players, yeah, that is a very underrated Major League Baseball storyline, is that not a lot of these guys really need the interpreter, but it allows a very nice filter to be able to have.
Why not? He said that he hopes everybody in Japan and around the rest of the world has a nice sake. I thought that was a nice touch for him. He said hopefully everybody has a nice sake with his performance. But, yeah, it's just amazing. We'll see what he does after that.
Two-prong question. Do you like sake? Jen, Preston? Yes, sake enjoyers?
Have not tried it, to be really honest.
It's fine. Actually, it's sort of in the same brands of other, I'll say tequila-ish, where it's just like this can go off the rails.
Well, yeah,
very quickly.
Yeah, there is a realm of possibility where you have too much.
Yes.
Too fast.
Yes.
Too easily.
But I would say I haven't had enough to be an appreciator to know what a good one is from a bad one.
I just know I've tried hot and cold sake.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
I was going to ask, do you prefer hot or cold?
Cold in a bomb.
Okay.
Yeah, cold. Yeah.
I kind of like it hot better.
Yeah, I've tried it hot. I've tried it hot before also.
I think that's where I'm leaning. I've had a small sample size. A larger sample size would allow me to make a better judgment.
I was going to say, I think research is important.
It is.
So I think that being professionals, that's something we need to consider.
Trying more and it being well-versed. Yeah.
And as he said, I think it's a celebratory thing, so
yes.
It doesn't feel like we're going to have a lot of that around here, football-wise.
Yeah, maybe drowning sorrows differently in other cultures. Sadness approached. Being a sad boy, maybe approached differently in other cultures than America. And, to kind of add insult to injury, with South Carolina's 3-4 start, kind of barreling towards a really bad, disastrous season, there are 3 teams, comically enough, in the AP Top 10 in football that we never thought we would see in the AP Top 10 in football. How are they there? And what does it really mean that these 3 no-names have crashed the college football party? And is there anything that South Carolina can learn from that? That's what we're going to discuss next here on the Early Game.
Hey, it's Jen for CHW Cabinetry. All that demolition we had to do in the kitchen, had that flood. It was not a fun time by any means, but I'll tell you what, CHW Cabinetry was great. They guided us to choose the layouts that we were looking for, choose the cabinetry, and then that photorealistic rendering that we had gotten. They gave us a picture of our finished kitchen before it was even finished, and that was fantastic. But I'll Still seeing some slowdowns there on I-20 westbound around Clemson Road coming in. Slow traffic. Also I-26 eastbound starting at about Broad River Road to I-20. Slowdowns there that might impact how soon you're getting to where you're looking to go. But as far as your forecast goes, sunny today, 73 for that high. It's going to be sunny all week, so we just kind of plan on that, which is great. Overnight lows more of about 45 to 48, so going to be kind of doing that latering thing this week. And we're starting off the morning right now. The sun is out. It's 54 on the early game.
It's Reaction Monday. Before we get into the 3 AP Top 10 teams that you would never, ever think would be in the AP Top 10 in late October, we'll get to the phones. AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Jack is on the line right now. Jack, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning, guys.
How we doing?
It's a bit, but my thing, I said at the beginning, and I always count it, just like Gamecock last, for 1 to 12. Your offensive line, period. Hands down. It's all this other stuff is you cannot make a move without a line. We came in hopefully that we our line would do, and we felt that we had a great depth. All the injuries just started taking places. Even in the beginning, find me one game out of the 7 that offensive line played a perfect game. Period. Hands down. You can't make a call. You can't do nothing. You can change the book to 1,000. It don't make a difference who calling it, who's doing it. I know it goes back, want to throw it at the coaches, but no. You got to go out and produce. Our line ain't doing nothing. They're not. And that's all I have to say on this great Monday. Let's trust and see if they can make another small improvement, such as not getting as many penalties, and let's go and beat Alabama. It can happen.
Garnet
I'm a
Goggles.
positive Gamecock. Let's run.
I love it, Jack.
I like it. We need it.
I love it, Jack. Appreciate your call. And I mean, hey, for Garnet Goggles, I'm definitely going to bring up the Kalen DeBoer stat as a road favorite, as a heavy road favorite in conference games since he's been a head coach. But what Jack says about the offensive line is ultimately the thing that is plaguing them the most. And it's been bad. It's been so bad at times, too, where you can have some marginal statistic improvements, like way fewer penalties, fewer pressures, by almost 10 fewer pressures on Saturday than you had against LSU. But from the eye, you almost don't notice the improvement because of just where you've been and what those pressures that you do give up ultimately look like and the plays that ultimately are killed before they have a chance to develop.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, 1, there's been lack of development on the offensive line, and 2, there's been the missed evaluations. The 3 transfer portal players have not lived up to expectations.
Nope.
And so they were supposed to come in and bolster their offensive line. They have not, and the players that were there have not developed. Again, wherever the blame needs to go, it can go on them, it can go on the coaches, it can go wherever. The fact is they have not developed.
And then throw in the injury element, too. Because
and the injuries.
Kason Henry has been by far your best offensive lineman this year. Look at the games in which he hasn't been able to play. Those have been your worst games. So really, it is a culmination of misevaluation in the transfer portal, a lack of development from the talented offensive linemen you were able to get from the high school ranks and retain in your program, and the bad injury luck with your best offensive lineman, which Casey Henry has been the best one, not being able to play these last few games, ultimately resulting in what you see here, and there's plenty of blame to go around. Back to AAA Heating and Air phone lines. Richard is on the line. Richard, good morning. Welcome to the early game.
Good morning, gentlemen. Thank y'all for taking my call. I just have a comment and then a question. Preston, and this, it may seem kind of silly, but you brought this point up a couple of weeks ago, and it has nothing to do with X's and O's, but we look like slobs on the football field. Our undershirts are hanging out, our pads are hanging out, our jerseys are pulled halfway up our chest, and we just look sloppy. Our uniforms look sloppy. And I know it's not important. It doesn't matter. But we look like slobs on the football field. If you look at other teams, Clemson, Oklahoma, their players don't look like that. Their jerseys cover their bellies. No pads are hanging out. They look like, I hate to say it, but NFL players. And it may not matter, but we look like slobs. Now, I just have a question for y'all. Who's the most surprising 3 and 4 team? South Carolina or Clemson? Y'all have a great day.
That's a good question.
Richard
making us think
appreciate
this
the call.
morning.
And as you stated, I was being glib and kind of joking, but it's the way the statement is the way you do anything is the way you do everything.
For a believer.
As an offensive line that's supposed to be a unit, and when you see the uniforms not being a uniform.
No uniformity.
New uniformity.
Yes.
Listen, man, the skill guys, the pretty boys, they're going to do whatever they want to do. But the O-line, again, Richard, you said the right word. When you have a belly, tuck it in. Right?
If you're not Mo Brown, tuck it in.
If they describe your midsection as a belly, you need to tuck it in. And that's just a life lesson for everybody. So I'm with you, Richard, on that. And as far as that, I do still think that the more surprising is Clemson.
Yeah.
I think
being 3 and 4, I would think.
By virtue of the conference you play in.
And go back to the dress code. Dress for the job you want. Isn't that what they always say?
Until then, everybody's tucked shirt, high socks, and whatever. And then when you grade out, we'll give you some leeway.
You get a little leeway.
But until then,
letting the belly hang. 3 teams in the AP top 10. Now, of course, AP does top 25, but let's look at the top 10 because there are 3 teams here that I want to talk about. At number 2, we're also receiving 6 number 1 votes. Indiana, 6 first place votes. Number 2 in the AP poll in college football. Sitting at number 7, Ramblin' Wreck, Georgia Tech, undefeated. Number 7 in the country in late October. And number 10, the team that has been the doormat of this conference since its inception, the Vanderbilt Commodores, after beating number 10 LSU, are now number 10 themselves. Georgia Tech, Indiana, Vanderbilt, top 10 in the AP top 10 in late October.
Can I ask you a question? Are we the new Vanderbilt?
Kentucky's got that one.
Okay.
Still
by virtue of just beating Kentucky.
Okay.
I think Kentucky has taken that mantle.
Thank God for Kentucky.
Thank God for that. Thank God for Mark Stoops. But I think those 3 teams provide a blueprint on how to win when maybe you are as a program at a little more of a disadvantage when it comes to funding, being in a large conference.
I would just give a little correction. I would say blueprints because they all have done it in different ways. So there's different ways that you can get to accomplishment. Each one of those programs have done it in a different style, and so that leads hope for programs all around the country because you can point to each one of them and say, like, they did it this way. That might not be available to us. Maybe a superstar like Kurt Signetti is not available. There's all types of ways that they can still lead to success. So I think that makes some people feel better, but also I think, as you point out, make some people, maybe us, feel a little worse because we're not there.
As like how are they doing it and you can't? And we'll dive a lot more into that tomorrow. Just don't have the time to today, but we absolutely will tomorrow because coming up next, it's time for us to give our winners, including a passing of an NFL player who is one of my all-time favorites. That's next. Mike Singletary wanted winners.
So did we.
So do we. Vernon Davis isn't helping us out with that. Didn't help Mike then. Vernon Davis can't help us out right now.
Can't win with him.
Can't coach him. Can't coach with him. Can't do it. But we have some winners for today's show, and I wanted to start off with an in memoriam winner. My winner for today's show, one of my favorite football players of all time, Doug Martin, a.k.a. the Muscle Hamster, at age of 36, passed away over the weekend. And that was a running back while at Boise State, leading rusher for 4 straight Boise State teams that went a combined 50-3 in 4 years, including a 14-0 season in which they won the Fiesta Bowl against TCU. And if we look back in the pantheon of years that would have been great for a college football playoff, seeing that Boise State team led by Doug Martin at running back, led by Kellen Moore at quarterback, I believe.
Yeah, okay.
Now the head coach of my New Orleans Saints. Also, Orlando Scandrick. If you're a Cowboys fan, you know who that is playing on that team. DeMarcus Lawrence, I believe, might have been on that team as well. But some of the best teams in the history of Group of 5 college football, that team undefeated, beating a really good TCU team in the Fiesta Bowl. Would have been really fun to see in a college football playoff back in 2009. But went to the NFL, and as an avid fantasy football player, always wanted the Muscle Hamster. 1,400 yards his rookie year, 1,400 yards in 2015. I got to earn a lot of bragging rights because Doug Martin was so good and was such a fun player to watch. And just one of those guys, too. You would talk about guys in the history of football that are built like bowling balls. The guy's built like a bowling ball. Physical runner, fast, could catch the ball out of the backfield, did a whole lot, and was one of just, it was like a fan favorite. Unfortunately, at the age 36, Doug Martin passed away, but I have to give a winner to one Doug Martin.
Muscle Hamster is a A1 primo nickname for sure.
Seriously.
I mean, and then when you look at the pictures of him, absolutely describes his stature and build. I'm going to give my winner to Chris Mortensen, since we're staying in memoriam. The Mort Report, one of our favorite things. Unfortunately, Chris passed last year, but he was on our TV screens every weekend talking about NFL sports. Just one of those guys. And as Elijah, you reported that he was also a great dude in real life. The chances you had an opportunity to work with him and spend with him, great dude. And you kind of felt that through the screen. You felt like Mort was who you wanted it to be. But Mort would have been really proud because his son pulled off a major upset in his first coaching gig as a head coach of the UAB Blazers, defeating undefeated Memphis to get a big victory, not only for UAB, but also for Preston in the Underdog Challenge. So there was a lot of synergy for that. I didn't know that Alex Mortensen was the interim head coach after Dilfer took over, but after learning that, it just felt even better. Everything felt like it was going in the right direction. So shout out to you, Chris Mortensen, Alex Mortensen, and all the UA Blazers, because I think the idea, there is something to be said when the head coach is fired and the team wins the next game when they haven't been winning.
There is a new coach bump, especially if the interim is somebody everybody on the team likes.
There's something to be said that this continues to happen, though I don't think that's going to happen in Florida, though.
No, Billy Napier ended up getting the boot.
Because when you, and this is, let me go ahead and jump you. Billy Napier, winner. Your job was on the line. You knew you were going to get fired. You still coached your team to a victory. You held your high. You had your head up high.
Yes.
And you walked with dignity, man. I respect that a lot.
Yeah, I give Billy a winner. He went out a winner, right? And of course, I think this is like the third time in the last 5 years that a head coach has been fired after beating Mississippi State specifically. If you remember, Jimbo Fisher didn't just beat Mississippi State. They beat the hell out of Mississippi State, and he still got fired the next day. It did not save them at all. Fired after a win, but Billy gets to go out a winner. You're a winner for sticking it through with us today.
That's right. You Gamecock fans, you're winners. Remember that.
Tyler Head and Jack Veltri, they're winners, and they're coming up next.